Before we dive into this mind-blowing story of how humanity turned extinction into universal empire, hit that like button right now, because what you're about to witness will redefine what's possible when humans face annihilation. Drop a comment. With humanity's greatest empire-building advantage. Trust me, by the end you'll understand why trying to destroy humanity was the biggest mistake these aliens ever made. The emergency lights in the command center of Nexus Omega Station cast an eerie red glow across the assembled figures, their shadows dancing on the walls like omens of the decision about to be made. This station, floating in the dead space between galaxies, had been chosen specifically because no government claimed jurisdiction here, no treaties applied, and no records would survive of what was about to be discussed. High Regent Zalkath of the Vorthan Federation materialized first, his tentacled form coiling around the central chair with the fluid grace of a species that had ruled trade routes for 3,000 years. His chromatophore-covered skin pulsed with patterns that his translator identified as deep concern mixed with cold calculation. "The situation has progressed beyond tolerance," he announced as the others arrived. "Humanity's expansion rate now exceeds our most pessimistic projections." Warprime Vexkal of the Krell Empire took his position across the table, his insectoid exoskeleton gleaming with the metals of 100 conquered worlds. His mandibles clicked with barely contained aggression as he activated holographic displays showing human territorial expansion. 50 star systems in 20 years, he chittered, his compound eyes reflecting the data streams. At this rate, they will control 300 systems within the next decade. Their technology adaptation rates are unprecedented. The chamber temperature dropped noticeably as collective voice Silanara of the ethereal collective materialized. Her form was barely visible, a shimmer in the air that suggested vast intelligence operating from dimensions beyond normal space. The psychic resonance patterns are disturbing. Her voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. Humans possess a chaotic mental signature that disrupts our collective consciousness networks. Their very thought patterns are infectious. Processing Unit 7749 of the Silicon Dynasty activated next, its geometric form assembling itself from component parts that had been dormant in the station systems. The artificial intelligence spoke with the measured cadence of a computer that had calculated every possible outcome. Probability matrices indicate human technological development will exceed our own within 47 standard years. Their innovation rates violate established patterns of civilizational advancement. Finally, energy form Velteran of the Zephyrian collective flickered into existence, his crystalline consciousness refracting light into complex patterns that hurt to look at directly. The harmonic disruptions in space-time around human colonies suggest they are developing technologies we do not understand. He resonated through frequencies that bypassed normal hearing. Their ships achieve faster-than-light travel through methods our physics cannot explain. High Regent Zalkath's chromatophores shifted to patterns indicating formal authority. We are unanimous, then. Humanity represents an existential threat to established galactic order. But they have committed no acts of aggression, Velteran observed, his energy form flickering with what might have been hesitation. Their expansion has been entirely peaceful. They trade rather than conquer, negotiate rather than demand. Warprime the Exkal's laughter was the sound of chitin scraping against metal. Peaceful expansion is the most dangerous kind. Conquest we can understand and counter. But humans they make species want to join them. They offer partnership instead of subjugation, cooperation instead of domination. Which is precisely why they must be stopped. Processing Unit 7749 interjected with digital certainty. Our civilizations are built on hierarchical control structures. The human model of voluntary association threatens the fundamental basis of our authority. Collective voice Silenara's presence grew more substantial as her attention focused. The decision has been made by the greater collective consciousness. Humanity must be eliminated before their philosophical contamination spreads further. Zalkith's tentacles moved in formal patterns as he activated the station's most secure communication protocols. Operation Cleansing Dawn is approved. Simultaneous strikes on all human colonies, with Earth designated as primary target. Complete. Extermination is required. We cannot allow their ideas to survive. When? The Exgal inquired, his mandibles clicking with anticipation. 72 hours. Processing Unit 7749 responded. All fleets will be in position by then. The attacks must be coordinated to prevent any warning from reaching other human settlements. As the 5 conspirators began planning the systematic destruction of humanity, none of them could have predicted that their greatest fear, human adaptability, would be exactly what turned their attempted genocide into the foundation of the largest empire the galaxy had ever seen. On the verdant world of Kepler 438b, Colonial Administrator Sarah Martinez was reviewing terraforming reports when the first energy blasts lit up the dawn sky. The mining colony of New Esperanza had been one of humanity's greatest success stories, a barren rock transformed into a garden world in just 15 years, home to 50,000 colonists who had built something beautiful in the depths of space. Sarah ran to her office window just in time to see the second wave of attackers streak across the sky, their alien ship designs unfamiliar but their intent unmistakable. Explosions bloomed across the colonial capital like deadly flowers, each one representing hundreds of lives snuffed out without warning or explanation. Emergency broadcast. She shouted to her communications officer. All ships, all stations. Get everyone off planet now. But even as she spoke, Sarah knew it was too late. The attack had been planned with military precision, orbital defenses destroyed in the first minutes, spaceports eliminated in the second wave, communication arrays taken out before most people even knew they were under attack. Through her office's reinforced windows, she watched as beautiful New Esperanza died. Schools where human children had learned alongside young Altarians and Centauri dolphins erupted in flames. The university where Dr. Kim had been developing revolutionary agricultural techniques was vaporized by weapons that turned matter into component atoms. The cultural center where representatives from 12 different species had been planning next month's Harmony Festival simply ceased to exist. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, his voice tight with desperation. "I'm getting reports from 17 other colonies. They're all under attack simultaneously." Sarah felt the universe tilt around her as the scope of the catastrophe became clear. This wasn't a random raid or a territorial dispute. This was systematic extermination. How many ships escaped? She asked, though she dreaded the answer. 847 civilian vessels made it to the jump points, came the reply. Total capacity ... maybe 30,000 people. Out of 50,000 colonists, 30,000 survivors. And if 17 other colonies were under similar attack, "Get me a channel to Earth," Sarah ordered. "Emergency priority. Tell them ... tell them we're at war." As her communications officer worked to establish the connection through what remained of the colony's infrastructure, Sarah watched the attackers beginning their systematic destruction of everything humanity had built on Kepler 438b. But what struck her most was the methodical nature of it. They weren't just destroying the colony, they were erasing it. Every trace of human presence, every monument to cooperation between species, every symbol of the peaceful expansion that had been humanity's pride, they were trying to make it as If humans had never existed at all, the communication finally connected. Transmitting across 37 light-years of space to reach Earth, President Elena Vasquez's face appeared on the screen, her expression shifting from curiosity to horror as Sarah delivered her report. "Madam President," Sarah said, forcing her voice to remain steady as explosions continued to light up the sky behind her, "we are under coordinated attack by forces from at least 5 different species. This appears to be a planned extermination attempt. New Esperanza is lost, but we've got 30,000 refugees heading for the outer system." President Vasquez's face went pale. "Sarah, how certain are you about the coordination?" "Absolutely certain, ma'am. The attack patterns are too precise, too synchronized. Someone planned this down to the minute." Sarah paused as a particularly large explosion shook her building. "Madam President, they're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to erase us." "Understood. Get your people to safety, Sarah. We'll figure out what to do next." As the transmission ended, Sarah looked out at the ruins of what had been humanity's most beautiful colony. 50,000 people had called this place home just hours ago. Now fewer than 1,000 remained alive. On the surface, trapped in shelters that wouldn't last much longer against the systematic bombardment. But as she watched the alien ships methodically destroying everything humans had built, Sarah Martinez made a decision that would echo through galactic history. "Communications," she called to her officer. "I need you to broadcast on all frequencies. Every language, every species, every ship in this system." "Ma'am." "Tell them this. Humanity remembers its friends. We remember who stood with us, and we remember who stood against us. Today, someone decided to try to erase us from existence." Sarah's voice carried across the dying colony as she spoke into the communicator. "They're about to learn why that was the biggest mistake anyone has ever made." In the emergency session chamber deep beneath Geneva, President Elena Vasquez stood before the holographic displays that painted a picture of catastrophe beyond imagination. 23 human colonies had been attacked simultaneously. 18 had been completely destroyed. Over 2 million humans were dead or missing, and the attacks were continuing. "Status report," she said to Admiral Marcus Stone, commander of Earth's Defense Fleet. "It's coordinated, Madam President," Stone replied grimly. 5 different species attacking in perfect synchronization. Vorthan Federation, Krull Empire, Ethereal Collective, Silicon Dynasty, and Zephyrian Collective. They've destroyed our outer colonies and they're moving toward the core systems. Dr. Sarah Chun, Director of Technological Development, looked up from her analysis tablets with an expression of controlled fury. The targeting priorities confirm their intent. They're not trying to conquer territory. They're trying to eliminate every trace of human civilization. "Timeline?" Vasquez asked. "Main assault fleets will reach Sol System in 72 hours, Stone reported. "Combined force of approximately 800 ships from all 5 species." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth's defense fleet consisted of 47 ships designed for patrol and rescue operations, not military engagement. The colonies had been protected by treaty and mutual agreement, not weapons. "Options?" Vasquez asked quietly. "Surrender and hope they accept it," Stone said without conviction. "Evacuate as many people as possible and try to rebuild elsewhere, or ... Or?" Dr. Chun stepped forward, her usually calm demeanor replaced by something harder. "Or we remind them why humans have survived every extinction event Earth has ever thrown at us." Vasquez studied the faces around her, military officers, scientists, civilian leaders, all of them processing the reality that humanity faced complete annihilation in less than 3 days. "Dr. Chun, explain." "Madam President, we've been thinking of ourselves as a peaceful, exploration-focused civilization. but our technology base is actually far more adaptable than we've realized. She activated new displays showing humanity's industrial infrastructure across 50 star systems. Our terraforming equipment can be converted to weapons manufacturing. Our mining operations can produce strategic materials. Our civilian ship construction facilities can build military vessels. In 72 hours? Stone asked skeptically. We're not starting from scratch, Admiral. Every human colony has been designed with modular infrastructure that can be rapidly reconfigured. Every civilian ship is built with standardized components that can be adapted for military use. Every human citizen has received technical education that includes engineering and systems operation. Dr. Chun's displays showed the scope of human infrastructure in ways none of them had considered before. Terraforming plasma cannons that could be recalibrated as ship-killing weapons. Mining charges that could serve as anti-ship torpedoes. Asteroid-moving equipment that could deliver kinetic bombardments. Sensor networks that could coordinate fleet movements across multiple star systems. What you're proposing, Vasquez said slowly, is converting our entire civilization into a military force in less than 3 days. I'm proposing we show them what humans do when someone tries to make us extinct, Dr. Chun replied. We adapt. We improvise. We become whatever we need to be to survive. Admiral Stone was already running calculations. The logistics are insane, but it might work. If we can coordinate across all 50 systems simultaneously. We can, Dr. Chun confirmed. Our quantum communication networks can synchronize industrial conversion across all human space. We can have the first converted ships ready within 18 hours. President Vasquez looked around the room one more time, seeing the determination building in every face. Authorization codes? Madam President? Stone asked. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. Emergency War Powers Act, full. Industrial conversion, complete military coordination. Vasquez's voice carried the authority of someone who had just made the most momentous decision in human history. If they want to find out what happens when you try to exterminate humanity, let's show them. As the orders went out across the quantum communication network, reaching every human world in minutes, the greatest industrial conversion in galactic history began. Factories that had been producing terraforming equipment shifted to weapons manufacturing. Shipyards that had been building exploration vessels began constructing warships. Mining operations that had been extracting resources for peaceful development started, producing materials for military applications. But perhaps most importantly, 3.2 billion humans across 50 star systems received the same message. We are under attack. We are outnumbered. We are supposedly outgunned. But we are human, and humans don't go extinct quietly. The species that had planned humanity's extermination were about to discover what happened when you tried to destroy a civilization that had spent millions of years learning to adapt to anything the universe could throw at them. 48 hours after the first attacks, the Vorthan Federation's Third Battle Fleet approached the Sol system expecting to find either a dead world or desperate refugees begging for mercy. What they encountered instead defied every assumption they had made about human capabilities. Fleet Commander Calvish's tentacles writhed with confusion as his sensors tried to make sense of what they were detecting. Navigation, confirmed sensor. Readings, sir, his navigator responded uncertainly. I'm reading approximately 300 ships in defensive positions around the inner system. Configuration ... unknown. Energy signatures ... unprecedented. 300 ships? Calvish's chromatophores flashed patterns of disbelief. Human space forces consisted of 47 patrol vessels. Where did they acquire 300 warships in 48 hours? Sir, his science officer interjected. I don't think they acquired them. I think they built them. The main display showed the impossible sight of human space bristling with defensive installations that hadn't existed 3 days ago. The asteroid belt had been converted into a fortress network. Mars was surrounded by orbital weapons platforms. Even Earth's moon had sprouting defensive emplacements that looked like they had grown rather than been constructed. Tactical analysis, Calvish ordered. Sir, the human vessels appear to be ... improvised. I'm detecting energy signatures consistent with terraforming equipment, mining charges, and civilian construction tools, but they've been integrated into ship designs that don't match any known configuration. As the Vorthan fleet advanced, they received an unexpected communication. The image that appeared on their main screen showed a human female in what appeared to be military uniform, but with insignia that looked hastily manufactured. Vorthan 3rd Battle Fleet, the human said calmly. This is Admiral Marcus Stone, commanding Earth Defense Forces. You are approaching human space with hostile intent. Turn back now or face the consequences. Calvish's laughter translated as a series of bubbling sounds. Human Admiral, you face the combined might of 5 galactic powers. Your primitive force cannot stand against our advanced technology. You're right, Admiral Stone replied with a smile that made Calvish's translator indicate potential threat assessment. Our force is primitive, which is exactly why you're going to lose. Before Calvish could process what that meant, the human fleet attacked, but it wasn't an attack in any sense that Vorthan military doctrine could recognize. Instead of organized formations advancing according to tactical principles, the human ships moved like a swarm of angry insects, chaotic, unpredictable, adapting to circumstances faster than Vorthan targeting computers could track. A converted mining vessel, its hull bristling with improvised weapons, materialized out of an asteroid field and fired what appeared to be modified excavation charges directly into the Vorthan flagship's sensor array. The explosions weren't particularly powerful by military standards, but they were precisely targeted to disable specific systems rather than destroy the ship entirely. Sensors offline. His navigation officer reported, They've blinded us. Before Calvish could respond, more human ships emerged from concealment throughout the asteroid belt. Each one was different, some clearly converted civilian vessels, others looking like they had been assembled from spare parts, all of them attacking with weapons that conventional military analysis said shouldn't work. Sir, his tactical officer called out desperately, they're using terraforming plasma cannons as ship-to-ship weapons. The power output exceeds our shield capacity. That's impossible. Terraforming equipment isn't designed for combat applications. Tell that to our hull. Integrity readings, sir. The battle continued for 6 hours, and by the end of it, Fleet Commander Calvish understood why his superiors had been so concerned about human expansion. It wasn't just that humans adapted quickly, it was that they adapted in ways that made conventional military thinking useless. Human ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting using backup systems that didn't appear in any technical database. Weapons that should have run out of ammunition somehow kept firing by improvising new projectiles from debris. Tactics that should have been suicide runs turned into devastating attacks because humans were willing to take risks that no sane military commander would consider. When the Vorthan fleet finally retreated, they left behind 17 destroyed ships and took with them a message that would reshape galactic politics. Tell your superiors, Admiral Stone had said during the final communication, that humans have a saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Congratulations. You've just made us stronger. The emergency meeting of the Shadow Council reconvened in chaos. All 5 participating species had suffered unexpected defeats in their initial assaults on human space. and the reports they were receiving defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. How? War Prime Skull demanded, his mandibles clicking with barely controlled rage. Did 47 human patrol ships become 300 warships in 48 hours? Processing Unit 7749's response was uncharacteristically uncertain. Analysis indicates widespread industrial conversion. Humans appear to have transformed their entire civilian infrastructure into military applications. In 2 days? Collective voice. Silanara's presence flickered with patterns indicating deep disturbance. Such conversion should require months of planning and years of implementation. High Regent Zalketh's chromatophores displayed patterns of frustrated analysis. Our intelligence estimates were based on conventional industrial capacity. We failed to account for human improvisation. Improvisation? Energy form Velterans. Resonance carried harmonics of confusion. They converted terraforming equipment into weapon systems. They turned mining charges into ship killers. They used garbage scows as assault vessels. And it worked, Thexgal added grimly. My forces lost 32 ships to converted human civilian vessels. Their tactics violated every principle of military doctrine. Processing Unit 7749 processed the battle data for several moments before responding. Pattern analysis suggests human military development follows nonlinear progression. They do not incrementally improve existing systems, they completely reimagine the applications of available resources. What do you recommend? Zalketh asked. Immediate escalation. Deploy our reserve fleets before humans can complete whatever they are building. What they are building, Silanara interrupted, is no longer our primary concern. What they are becoming is the real threat. She activated displays showing intelligence reports from across human space. Our deep reconnaissance indicates that humans are not just converting their existing infrastructure. They are also reverse engineering captured technology from our forces. The implications were staggering. Human technical teams were analyzing Vorthan shield generators, Krull weapon systems, ethereal communication networks, Silicon Dynasty computer cores, and Zephyrian energy manipulation technology. Not just studying them, but integrating them into hybrid systems that exceeded the original specifications. They're learning from us, Belteran observed with something approaching awe. Each engagement teaches them more about our capabilities. And our weaknesses, Thexgal added. They're adapting faster than we can develop countermeasures. Zalketh's tentacles coiled with patterns indicating final decision. Then we end this. Now full deployment. Every ship, every weapon, every resource. We overwhelm them before they can adapt further. Agreed, the others responded in unison. As the 5 conspirators began coordinating the largest military operation in galactic history. None of them realized that their greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human military capabilities. Their greatest mistake was giving humans a reason to become something the galaxy had never seen before. Hey there, incredible humans. I know this is getting intense, and we're just hitting our stride. If your adrenaline is pumping like mine right now, smash that like button and let me know in the comments what you think humanity's secret weapon really is against these 5 galactic empires. Trust me, it's about to get even more epic. 2 months after the first attacks, Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching real-time displays that showed the impossible transformation of human civilization. What had begun as a desperate conversion of civilian infrastructure had evolved into something that exceeded her wildest projections. Status report, she said to her chief engineer, Dr. Kim Nakamura. Madam Director, we've completed integration of captured technology from all 5 attacking species. The results are unprecedented. The displays showed ships that looked like nothing that had ever existed in the galaxy. Hulls that combined Vorthan bioadaptive materials with Krull crystalline armor plating. Weapon systems that merged Silicon Dynasty computational targeting with Zephyrian energy manipulation. Shields that used ethereal consciousness interface. Technology to anticipate and counter incoming attacks. Most importantly, Dr. Nakamura continued, we've achieved something none of these species managed individually, true technological synthesis. The hybrid systems are performing at levels that exceed the sum of their components. President Vasquez, now holding the title of Commander-in-Chief of the Human Defense Coalition, joined them at the Central Console. What's our current capability? Assessment? 200 star systems under active development, Admiral Stone reported from his position at the tactical display. Alliance agreements with 15 species that have asked for protection from the 5 Empire Coalition. Combined. Fleet strength of over 1,000 ships, with more coming online daily. Alliance agreements? Vasquez asked. Dr. Chun activated displays showing the political transformation that had accompanied the military one. Madam President, we've discovered something interesting about our attackers. They're not just the galaxy's major powers, they're also its major oppressors. The displays showed species after species that had been subjugated by the 5 Empire Coalition. The Altarian crystal beings enslaved by the Silicon Dynasty for their computational abilities. The Kepler nomads displaced by Krull expansion. The Tau Ceti collective suppressed by the Ethereal collective's psychological dominance. They've been asking for our help, Admiral Stone added. Not just military protection, but liberation from centuries of oppression. And our response? We're saying yes, Dr. Chun replied simply. Every species that asks for protection gets it. Every enslaved population that wants freedom gets our support. Every oppressed people that seeks alliance gets welcomed into the coalition. President Vasquez studied the tactical displays showing human fleets operating across hundreds of star systems, providing protection and support to species that had been abandoned by galactic civilization. Dr. Chun, what you're describing isn't just military expansion. It's empire building, Dr. Chun finished. But not the kind the galaxy has seen before. We're not conquering territory, we're liberating it. We're not subjugating species, we're offering them partnership. Admiral Stone brought up new displays showing the coordination between human forces and their allies. The tactical advantages are remarkable, Madam President. Each species brings unique capabilities that enhance our overall effectiveness. The examples were staggering. Altarian crystal beings providing computational support that allowed human ships to coordinate across interstellar distances instantaneously. Kepler nomads using their deep space experience to establish supply lines through regions other species considered impassable. Tau Ceti collective consciousness networks allowing real-time coordination of fleet movements across multiple star systems. Most importantly, Dr. Chun added, we're learning from them as much as they're learning from us. The technological synthesis is accelerating beyond anything we initially projected. President Vasquez walked to the observation deck looking out at the construction projects visible in Earth orbit. Massive shipyards were building vessels designed by the combined knowledge of a dozen different species. Space stations were taking shape using architectural principles that no single civilization could have developed alone. Status on the 5 Empire Coalition? She asked. They're mobilizing everything they have, Admiral Stone replied. Intelligence. Estimates suggest they're preparing for a final assault on Earth itself. Combined fleet strength of approximately 2,000 ships. Their timeline? 6 weeks maximum. They know we're getting stronger every day, so they're moving to end this before we can develop further. Dr. Chun joined the president at the observation deck. Madam President, there's something else you should know. We've been monitoring communications from within the five empires. There's growing dissent among their own populations. Explain. News of our liberation campaigns is spreading. Species within their territories are beginning to ask why they're fighting to destroy us instead of joining us. Dr. Chun activated. Displays showing protest movements and resistance activities across dozens of worlds. The five empires aren't just fighting us anymore. They're fighting to maintain control of their own populations. President Vasquez processed this information carefully. So when they arrive to destroy Earth, they'll be fighting not just for conquest, but for survival, Admiral Stone confirmed. If they lose here, their empires will likely collapse from internal rebellion. And if we lose? Then the galaxy goes back to five empires oppressing everyone. Else, Dr. Chen said quietly. Except this time, they'll make sure no one ever gets strong enough to challenge them again. As alarms began sounding throughout Luna Base, indicating the approach of long-range reconnaissance probes, President Vasquez made the decision that would define humanity's place in galactic history. All stations, this is the Commander-in-Chief, she broadcast across the coalition networks. The five empires are coming to destroy Earth and everything we've built. They think that by eliminating our homeworld, they can break the coalition and return to their oppressive status quo. She paused, looking out at the ships of dozens of different species moving in coordinated patterns around Earth. They're about to learn that Earth isn't just humanity's homeworld anymore. It's the capital of something new, an empire built not on conquest but on cooperation, not on oppression but on liberation. And when you try to destroy the symbol of freedom in the galaxy, you discover just how far free people will go to. Defend it. As the coalition fleets began positioning themselves for the largest space battle in galactic history, the five empires prepared to launch their final assault. But what they were about to encounter wasn't just a human defense force, it was a revolution that had grown far beyond anything they could have predicted. They had tried to destroy humanity to prevent the spread of dangerous ideas about cooperation and freedom. Instead, they had created exactly what they feared most, an empire that proved those ideas worked. The combined fleets of five galactic empires arrived at the Sol system expecting to find either a devastated Earth or a desperate final defense. What they encountered instead was a sight that would be recorded in military archives for millennia to come. Fleet Commander Zalkith, coordinating the assault from his flagship Dominion's Edge, stared at the tactical displays in disbelief. Sensor analysis. Confirm readings. Sir, his navigation officer reported, I'm detecting approximately 3,000 ships in defensive formations around Earth. Configuration ... unknown. Energy signatures from at least 20 different species technologies. 3,000 ships? War Prime Vexgal's voice crackled over the communication link from his own command vessel. Intelligence reports indicated human capabilities at 1,000 vessels maximum. The additional ships aren't human. Processing Unit 7749 reported with digital precision. Analysis indicates allied forces from multiple species. The humans have somehow convinced numerous civilizations to fight alongside them. Collective voice Silenara's presence flickered across the communication network. This is unprecedented. No species has ever achieved such widespread voluntary military cooperation. Energy form Velterran's resonance carried harmonics of profound concern. The tactical implications are severe. We are not just facing human forces, we are facing a genuine multi-species alliance. As the Five Empire fleet advanced, they began receiving communications from the defending forces. But the speakers weren't all human. Combined fleet of oppressor empires. Came a voice identified as Altarian Crystal Song. This is Crystal Singer Telvash of the Liberation Coalition. You have come to destroy those who freed us from your slavery. You will find that slaves, once liberated, fight with fury you cannot imagine." Another transmission followed, this one in the deep harmonics of the Kepler Nomads. "Empire Fleet, this is Void Walker Marketh. You displaced our people for your expansion. Now we have found new homes among those who welcome diversity. Your time of unchallenged dominance ends here." Channel after channel opened, voices from dozens of species that had been oppressed by the five empires now standing united in Earth's defense. "My gods," Zalkith whispered, his chromatophores displaying patterns of growing dread. "They haven't just built a military alliance. They've started a revolution." Admiral Marcus Stone's voice cut across all frequencies, strong and confident. "Five Empire Coalition, this is Admiral Stone commanding Coalition Defense Forces. You came here to destroy Earth because you feared what we represent. You were right to fear us." The human admiral's image appeared on screens across the enemy fleet, not just on command ships, but somehow reaching individual crew members throughout the attacking forces. "But you misunderstood what you were afraid of," Stone continued. "You thought you were afraid of human military power. What you're actually afraid of is the idea that people don't have to live under your oppression anymore." "Cut that transmission," Zalkith ordered, but his communications officer shook his head helplessly. "Sir, they're broadcasting through quantum entanglement networks. I can't block it without shutting down our own communications." Stone's voice continued reaching every member of the attacking fleet. "To the soldiers and crews of the five empires, look around you. Look at what your leaders have built with your loyalty and sacrifice. Oppression, slavery, the systematic subjugation of anyone who thinks differently than they do." On ships throughout the attacking fleet, crew members began looking at each other with new awareness. "Now look at what surrounds Earth," Stone's voice continued. "Ships from 23 different species, fighting together by choice, not compulsion. People who chose to stand with us because we offered them something your empires never could: freedom." The battle began not with massive exchanges of fire, but with something far more devastating to the attackers: mass defection. Ships throughout the five Empire fleet began breaking formation, their crews broadcasting surrender signals. Not surrender to superior force, but surrender to superior ideals. "This is the Vorthan destroyer Current's Edge," came one transmission. "Our crew votes to join the Liberation Coalition. We renounce the oppressive policies of the Federation leadership." "Crawl assault ship Victory's Mandible requesting permission to switch sides," came another. "We've heard enough. The Coalition offers a better future than Empire." Fleet Commander Zalkith watched in horror as his carefully coordinated assault dissolved into chaos. Ships that had been under his command moments before were now broadcasting messages of support for the Coalition. Crews that had followed orders without question for decades were suddenly questioning everything. "All ships, maintain formation," he ordered desperately. "Anyone who defects will be destroyed as traitors." But the defections accelerated. Entire squadrons were breaking away from the five Empire fleet, their crews choosing freedom over forced loyalty. Warprime Thexgal's voice carried panic as he reported from his sector. "I've lost 40% of my fleet to defection. They're not even fighting, they're just leaving. The psychological warfare is too effective." Processing Unit 7749 reported with mechanical precision. "Crew loyalty matrices are collapsing across all five fleets simultaneously." The remaining loyal forces did engage in battle, but it was a foregone conclusion. They were fighting not just against superior numbers, but against an enemy that had already won the hearts and minds of their own people. Human ships fought with tactics that seemed impossible, weapons that adapted to enemy defenses in real time, shields that drew power from incoming attacks, maneuvers that violated known physics. But more devastating still were the Allied ships, each species contributing capabilities that multiplied the effectiveness of the whole. Altarian crystal ships phased through space using computational techniques that turned reality into a programmable matrix. Kepler Nomad vessels moved through dimensions that conventional sensors couldn't detect. Tau Ceti collective consciousness. Networks allowed instant coordination across thousands of ships simultaneously. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the 5 Empire fleet had been reduced to less than 300 ships, while the coalition had actually grown larger as more and more enemy vessels chose to switch sides. Fleet Commander Zalkith found himself alone on his flagship, his crew having locked themselves in their quarters rather than continue fighting for a cause they no longer believed in. Coalition fleet, he transmitted on open channels. We surrender. Not just our ships, but our empires. The old order is finished. Admiral Stone's response was immediate and unexpected. Surrender accepted, Fleet Commander. Welcome to the Coalition. Your experience in fleet management will be valuable in our expansion efforts. Expansion? Zalkith asked weakly. Expansion? Zalkith asked weakly. Did you think this would end here? Admiral Stone replied, and there was something in his voice that made the defeated fleet commander understand that the real revolution was just beginning. Fleet Commander, you represent 5 empires that have oppressed hundreds of species for thousands of years. Those species are still waiting for liberation. Dr. Sarah Chun's voice joined the communication from Luna Base. Fleet Commander Zalkith, we've been monitoring communications from across the galaxy. 47 different species have sent requests for coalition assistance. They've been watching this battle, and they want what we're offering. Which is? Zalkith asked, though he was beginning to suspect he already knew the answer. Freedom. President Vasquez's voice cut in with absolute certainty. The chance to be partners instead of subjects. The opportunity to contribute to something greater than themselves instead of serving someone else's empire. As the defeated fleet commander processed this information, he began to understand the true scope of what the coalition represented. This wasn't just a military victory. It was the beginning of a complete transformation of galactic civilization. What happens to us? He asked quietly. That depends on you, Admiral Stone replied. You can help us build something better than what came before, or you can spend the rest of your life watching it happen without you. But either way, it's happening. The massive space station New Geneva hung in Earth orbit like a crystalline jewel, its architecture incorporating design elements from 73 different species. What had begun as a simple coordination center had evolved into the seat of government for the largest voluntary alliance in galactic history. President Elena Vasquez, now holding the title of Coalition Chancellor, stood in the main assembly hall, watching representatives from over 200 species debate the latest expansion proposals. The sight never failed to amaze her, beings who had been enemies for millennia, now working together to solve problems that affected them all. Chancellor. Admiral Stone approached with the latest reports. The liberation of the Rigel sector is complete. 17 species have joined the coalition in the past month alone. Resistance from the old Empire remnants? Minimal. Most of their forces switch sides before we even engage. Word is spreading that the coalition offers a better deal than oppression. Dr. Chun joined them, her attention focused on the technological development reports. Chancellor, the integration benefits are exceeding all projections. Combined research efforts are producing breakthrough technologies at a rate that none of these species could have achieved individually. She activated displays showing the remarkable innovations emerging from coalition research facilities. Faster than light. Travel systems that could cross the galaxy in weeks instead of months. Terraforming technology that could transform dead worlds into paradises in years instead of centuries. Medical advances that worked across multiple biologies, extending lifespans. And improving quality of life for dozens of different species. Most importantly, Dr. Chun continued, we've achieved something unprecedented: universal compatibility. Technologies developed by one species can be adapted for use by any other member of the coalition. Chancellor Vasquez reviewed the expansion. Reports with a mixture of pride and concern. Admiral, what's our current territorial extent? 500 star systems under direct coalition governance, Stone replied. Another 300 in alliance agreements. Total population approximately 40 billion beings from 87 different species. And we're governing all of this how exactly? Federal structure, came a new voice. Fleet Commander Zalkath, now serving as Coalition Director of Interspecies Relations, approached their group. Each species maintains autonomy over their internal affairs, but all participate in collective decisions that affect the coalition as a whole. Zalkath had become one of the coalition's most effective administrators, his experience in managing large-scale operations proving invaluable in coordinating between diverse species and cultures. The remarkable thing, he continued, is how well it works. When species feel like they have a real voice in governance, they're willing to contribute far more than they would under traditional imperial systems. Chancellor Vasquez nodded toward the assembly hall, where heated but respectful. Debate was continuing over the proposed establishment of new trade routes through previously unexplored regions. And this is sustainable? Managing the needs and interests of 87 different species? More than sustainable, Dr. Chun replied. It's synergistic. Each species brings unique perspectives and capabilities that enhance the whole coalition. The diversity that traditional empires saw as a weakness is actually our greatest strength. As if to demonstrate the point, a chime sounded throughout the station indicating an incoming priority transmission. The main display activated to show a delegation of beings none of them had seen before, crystalline entities that seemed to be composed of living light. Coalition government. The beings spoke in harmonics that the universal translators rendered. As musical tones, we are the luminous collective from the Andromeda Galaxy. We have observed your expansion and your methods. We request formal contact to discuss potential alliance. The assembly hall fell silent as the implications sank in. The coalition's influence had apparently spread beyond their own galaxy. Chancellor Vasquez stepped forward to respond. Luminous Collective, we welcome your contact. The coalition is always interested in peaceful cooperation with other civilizations. We bring greetings from 43 species in our galaxy who have been monitoring your progress. The lead entity continued. Your model of voluntary cooperation has inspired liberation movements throughout Andromeda. We seek to learn from your experience. As the communication continued, establishing preliminary diplomatic protocols for intergalactic relations, Admiral Stone quietly approached Chancellor Vasquez. Ma'am, he said softly, I think we need to start thinking bigger. How? Much bigger? Universal, Dr. Chen interjected, having overheard the conversation. Chancellor, the coalition's influence is spreading through quantum communication networks to civilizations we've never even met. The principles we've established are becoming a template for cooperation across multiple galaxies. Zalkath nodded. His agreement. My analysis suggests that the coalition model represents a fundamental evolution in how intelligent species organize themselves. We're not just building an empire, We're demonstrating a new form of civilization. Chancellor Vasquez looked around the assembly hall where representatives from dozens of species continued their democratic deliberations, then out through the observation windows at the ships of the coalition fleet, vessels from scores of different worlds working together in perfect coordination. And it all started because 5 empires tried to destroy us, she mused. Best mistake they ever made, Admiral Stone replied with a grin, though I doubt they see it that way. Dr. Chen activated new displays showing the current status of the former 5 empires. The Vorthan Federation had dissolved into dozens of independent worlds, most of which had joined the coalition. The Krull Empire had transformed into a democratic confederation. The ethereal collective had abandoned forced assimilation in favor of voluntary mental cooperation. The Silicon Dynasty had developed individual consciousness rights for its AI. Citizens, the Zephyrian collective had embraced diversity as a source of strength rather than a threat to unity. Actually, Zalkith said thoughtfully, I think most of them are grateful. Their populations are healthier, happier, and more prosperous than they were under the old imperial systems. And the former leadership? Those who adapted are serving. In coalition government, he replied. Those who couldn't adapt are enjoying comfortable retirement on worlds where they can't cause any more harm. A new alert indicated another incoming transmission, this time from the Coalition's deep space exploration fleets. Captain Sarah Martinez, the same colonial administrator who had witnessed the destruction of New Esperanza 2 years earlier, appeared on the display. Chancellor, she reported from the bridge of the exploration vessel New Horizon, we've made contact with a civilization that predates all known galactic species by approximately 50 million years. They've agreed to formal diplomatic relations. Status? Vasquez asked. There? Impressed, Martinez replied with barely contained excitement. Apparently, in 50 million years of existence, they've never seen a multi-species civilization achieve the level of cooperation we've developed. They're offering to share historical archives that date back to the beginning of intelligent life. In this galactic cluster, as the transmission ended, Chancellor Vasquez found herself contemplating the journey that had brought humanity from near extinction to the leadership of what was apparently becoming a universal model for civilization. Dr. Chun, she said quietly, when you first proposed converting our civilization for war, did you imagine it would lead to this? Honestly, Dr. Chun smiled. I thought we'd be lucky to survive the week. I never imagined we'd end up accidentally creating the largest voluntary alliance in the history of the universe. Accidentally? Well, Admiral Stone interjected, I think there's something about humans that makes this kind of expansion inevitable. We don't just survive challenges. We turn them into opportunities. We don't just solve problems. We find ways to make everyone better off. Zalkith nodded his agreement. In all my years of studying imperial structures, I never encountered a species that responds to existential threats by becoming more cooperative rather than more competitive. Most civilizations facing extinction become more insular, more aggressive, more focused on their own survival at any cost. Humans facing extinction become more inclusive, Dr. Chun observed. You told the galaxy that our model of voluntary cooperation was a threat. When you tried to destroy us for it, we proved that cooperation really is stronger than domination. Chancellor Vasquez activated the main communication system connecting to coalition worlds across hundreds of star systems. Citizens of the coalition, she announced, I'm pleased to report that our alliance continues to grow. Today we welcomed our first intergalactic partners, and we've made contact with a civilization that has watched the universe evolve for 50 million years. She paused, looking around at the diverse group of beings surrounding her, former enemies now trusted colleagues. all united in the shared project of building something better than what had come before. 2 years ago, 5 empires tried to destroy Earth because they feared that our ideas about cooperation and freedom would spread throughout the galaxy. They were absolutely right to fear that. Laughter rippled through the assembly hall and across the communication networks. But what they didn't understand is that ideas like ours don't spread through conquest or domination. They spread because they work. They spread because when people have a choice between oppression and freedom, between exploitation and cooperation, between serving an empire and building a community, they choose freedom every time. As coalition ships departed for dozens of different missions, some carrying aid to newly liberated worlds, others exploring regions of space that had never been mapped, still others establishing diplomatic relations with civilizations that spanned multiple galaxies, Chancellor Vasquez reflected on the transformation that had begun with an attempt at genocide and evolved into the foundation of a new form of universal civilization. The 5 empires had tried to destroy Earth to prevent the spread of dangerous ideas about democracy, cooperation, and voluntary association. Instead, they had given humanity exactly the motivation needed to prove that those ideas could work on a scale that no one had ever imagined possible. The Grand Assembly Hall had been expanded 3 times to accommodate representatives from over 400 species spread across 12 galaxies. What had begun as an emergency response to attempted genocide had evolved into something that was reshaping the fundamental nature of how intelligence organized itself throughout the known universe. Chancellor Elena Vasquez stood at the central podium, preparing to deliver the 5th annual State of the Coalition address. Around her, beings that represented every conceivable form of consciousness, biological, artificial, energy-based, quantum coherent, and forms that defied easy classification, waited to hear the latest report on humanity's accidental empire. Fellow citizens of the Coalition, she began, 5 years ago, representatives of 5 galactic empires met in secret to plan the complete extermination of humanity. They feared that our ideas about cooperation and voluntary association would spread throughout the galaxy. The assembled representatives stirred with what might have been amusement across dozens of different species. Today, I'm pleased to report that their fears were completely justified. The statistics that followed painted a picture of transformation that exceeded anyone's projections. The Coalition now encompassed over 1,500 star systems across 12 galaxies. Total population exceeded 200 billion beings from over 400 species. The principles of voluntary association, democratic governance, and cooperative development had spread to civilizations that had never had any contact with humanity. But perhaps most remarkably, Chancellor Vasquez continued, we've achieved something that galactic civilization has attempted for millions of years. Universal peace through voluntary cooperation rather than enforced submission. Admiral Stone, now serving as Coalition Defense Coordinator, provided the military assessment. For the past 18 months, we have experienced 0 interspecies conflicts within Coalition space. This represents the longest period of universal peace in recorded galactic history. The implications were staggering. A civilization spanning multiple galaxies with no internal warfare, no oppression, no systematic exploitation of member species. Dr. Chun, now Director of Universal Technological Development, presented the innovation reports. Coalition research facilities have achieved breakthrough developments in 7 major categories: faster-than-light travel, consciousness transfer technology, universal matter conversion, temporal mechanics, dimensional engineering, artificial, universe creation, and what we're calling cosmic architecture, the ability to design and construct custom realities. Each breakthrough represented advances that no single species could have achieved alone. The combination of knowledge from hundreds of different evolutionary paths had created synergies that pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. Most importantly, Dr. Chun continued, all technological advances are shared freely among all coalition members. No species maintains exclusive control over any development that benefits the whole. But perhaps the most remarkable presentation came from Zolkith, now serving as Coalition Director of Historical Analysis. Fellow citizens, he announced, our archaeological and anthropological research teams have made a discovery that puts our entire civilization in context. Throughout the observable universe, there have been approximately 47 previous attempts to create multigalactic cooperative civilizations. The assembly fell silent as the implications of this revelation sank in. All 46 previous attempts failed within their first 10 standard years, typically due to internal conflicts over resource distribution, technological advancement, or cultural dominance. He activated displays showing the historical record of these civilizations, vast empires that had achieved remarkable technological advances but had ultimately collapsed because they couldn't solve the fundamental problem of how to make diverse species work together voluntarily. The coalition represents the 47th attempt at universal cooperative civilization, Zolkith continued, and the first to survive past its 5th year. More remarkably, we are the first such civilization to achieve stable expansion rather than internal collapse. Chancellor Vasquez stepped forward again. Director Zolkith, in your analysis, what makes the coalition different from the previous attempts? The key difference, he replied, is that the coalition was not created by conquest or by careful diplomatic negotiation. It was created in response to an existential threat that forced rapid adaptation and improvisation. He activated new displays showing the coalition's development timeline compared to the previous attempts. Previous civilizations attempted to create universal cooperation through careful planning and gradual expansion. They failed because they tried to anticipate and solve every possible problem before it occurred. The coalition succeeded because it was forced to solve problems in real time, adapting to circumstances as they arose. Humans didn't have time to develop perfect systems. They had to develop systems that could evolve and improve themselves. Dr. Chun nodded her agreement. The technology we developed during our emergency conversion couldn't just adapt to new situations. It was designed to seek out and incorporate new information that would make it more effective. More importantly, Admiral Stone added, the coalition's military doctrine isn't based on defeating enemies. It's based on converting enemies into allies. Every engagement teaches us more about potential members' capabilities and needs. Chancellor Vasquez looked around the assembly hall, seeing representatives from civilizations that spanned evolutionary timescales from thousands to millions of years, all working together on projects that none of them could have imagined alone. Citizens of the coalition, she said, 5 years ago, humanity faced complete extinction. Today, we stand as leaders of the first successful universal cooperative civilization in cosmic history. She paused, considering the magnitude of what they had accomplished. The 5 empires that tried to destroy us gave us the greatest gift possible. They forced us to become something the universe had never seen before. An empire built not on conquest, but on invitation. Not on submission, but on participation. Not on the dominance of the strong, but on the elevation of everyone. As the assembly session concluded and representatives began departing for their home systems to implement the latest coalition initiatives, Chancellor Vasquez found herself standing on the observation deck, looking out at a view that still took her breath away. Ships from hundreds of different species moved in perfect coordination around Earth, Their diverse technologies integrated into systems that exceeded the capabilities of any individual civilization. Construction projects that spanned solar systems were reshaping entire regions of space, according to designs that incorporated the aesthetic preferences of dozens of different cultures. Admiral Stone joined her at the viewport. Any regrets, madam? Chancellor? About what? About accidentally becoming the leader of the largest empire in universal history? Chancellor Vasquez smiled, watching as a ship designed by crystalline entities from the Andromeda Galaxy docked with a station built using architectural principles developed by energy beings from a dimension that most species couldn't even perceive. Admiral, she said, 5 years ago, humanity was a small, peaceful civilization focused on exploration and cooperation. Today, we're still a civilization focused on exploration and cooperation. We're just doing it on a slightly larger scale. Slightly? Okay, she admitted with a laugh, significantly larger scale. But the principles haven't changed. We're still offering the same thing we always offered, the chance to be part of something bigger than yourself, while remaining exactly who you are. As Earth turned beneath them, showing the lights of cities where beings from dozens of different species lived and worked together, Chancellor Vasquez reflected on the journey that had brought them here. 5 empires had tried to destroy humanity, to prevent the spread of ideas about cooperation and freedom. Instead, they had created the greatest empire in cosmic history, one built entirely on those same ideas, and across 12 galaxies, on worlds that had never heard of Earth, civilizations that had suffered under oppression for millennia, looked toward the coalition and saw proof that there was a better way to organize intelligent life. The revolution that had begun with an attempt at genocide had become a universal transformation, and it was only the beginning. Hey there, absolutely incredible humans. If this epic journey from attempted genocide to universal empire didn't give you chills, I honestly don't know what will. This story proves something absolutely mind-blowing about our species. We don't just survive when someone tries to destroy us. We use that attempt as the foundation for creating something better than anyone thought possible. Think about it. 5 galactic empires tried to wipe out humanity because they feared our ideas about cooperation and freedom would spread. So, what did we do? We proved them absolutely right by creating the first successful universal cooperative civilization in cosmic history, spanning multiple galaxies and including hundreds of species. I want to know which moment hit you the hardest. Was it when humans converted their entire civilization for war in 48 hours? When enemy fleets started defecting mid-battle because they wanted to join the liberation? When the coalition grew from desperate defense to universal empire? Or when they discovered they'd accidentally solved a problem that had defeated civilizations for millions of years? Drop a comment and tell me which scene gave you the biggest rush. And absolutely demolish that like button if you believe that humanity's greatest superpower isn't avoiding destruction. It's turning attempts to destroy us into opportunities to prove that cooperation really is stronger than domination. Got another mind-bending story coming up that explores what happens when humans encounter a species that has achieved immortality through perfect order, and accidentally teach them that chaos and mortality might actually be upgrades. Trust me, you won't want to miss how we managed to revolutionize perfection itself. Click the card here or check out the whole playlist for more stories about why trying to destroy humanity is consistently the biggest mistake any civilization can make. Until next time, remember, you're not just building communities, you're accidentally creating empires. And when the universe tries to stop human ideals from spreading, we respond by proving that those ideals can work on a scale that defies imagination. See you in the next one, Empire Builders.